We've got some
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
We spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit. And today, we're bringing them to you so you can take action immediately and start creating real content momentum.
If you'd like to learn more about how to turn your content into profit, go to contentisprofit.com. Oh, yeah.
We already got it live there. Let's go.
Today we are starting with a golden nugget. How can you get epic guests into your podcast? By asking for referrals. Shout out to Larry for connecting us to today's incredible guest.
That is right. Not only that, but today we're going across the world to talk to today's guest. He is and has had a challenging life. Like us, he had to leave his country in search for new opportunity. But guess what? He is making those opportunities happen. He is such an awesome source of inspiration.
Oh, yeah. And that's why we're excited for today's guest. He's all about perspective. He's even the host of a podcast called The Perspective. He has also sold over $1 million in sales for different brands in 1.5 years. And he's working with Team Gary V on the Gary Vaynerchuk's Arabic content.
Fun fact, he actually grew Gary V's YouTube channel, that one, the Arabic YouTube channel, from 2K subscribers to 86K subscribers.
That's
in a short period of time.
Thousands.
Yeah,
Thousands.
That's a lot. 86,000.
Love it.
Now, he is such a cool dude. Please welcome host of the Perspective podcast, the Arabic content master, and future best friend, Mano Guiragossian. Woohoo! Mano, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great intro, by the way. It's really a pleasure to be with you today.
Appreciate it, man. We're so excited, man. I can tell you, since that conversation we had the other day, you know, the 15-minute conversation we had getting to know each other.
Yeah.
I have been very excited to talk to you because, you know, your life experience is so unique and how you have been able to transform that into, you know, a successful life and a successful that you keep on building on. So you are a source of inspiration, my man, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also excited, by the way. Like, he was like, you inspire me. I'm also inspired. Also.
Thank you, guys. It's really a pleasure to be with you.
Awesome, man. Thank you again. So for those who don't know you, I mean, for those that missed the epic intro that we just did, almost butchered the whole thing, but tell us a little bit about you, man. Where are you coming from? And then why you do what you do? Why perspective, right? So, yeah, share a little bit with us.
Yeah. So I'm Mano Guiragossian. I was born in Syria. Then during the war, I had to immigrate to Armenia because I'm Armenian. And then in 2014, I had to immigrate to Armenia. And there's a funny story that I had to immigrate 3 times because I came to here and, you know, my situation personally wasn't so good. And I had to immigrate again to Lebanon with the hope that maybe I can find a different career there or something good there. But then I didn't succeed to find anything there as well. So I came back to Armenia, but this time with a different perspective. And so I was born in Syria. We immigrated, like we didn't have a lot while immigrating. That's why at the end, when I came to Armenia, I had to find a job. And, you know, for an immigrant, it's a little bit harder to find a job because I wasn't born here before. I didn't know too many people here. And that's why, like, I had some financial barriers and financial issues, which caused me, like, to go and search for a way to find a living, or at least to find not too much money, but in a way, I mean, to work something that I enjoy at least and make my living from it. So that was the first reason I decided to go to the internet world and start to search, like, what can I do on the internet to start earning some money.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically that's how the first time it was there, like, I came across Gary Vaynerchuk's YouTube account and I watched one of his videos, which was the reason that I changed everything. And actually, like, seeing him made me like think that marketing is my way to go out of what I was in because of his story. But once I started like working in that field as well, I really enjoyed it, and it became my real passion. So I actually did what he was telling in his video, and I went to one of the companies here in Armenia, and I worked for free for 6 months just to learn marketing.
Wow.
And at the same time, I was like flipping some jewelries here in Armenia as well to earn my living from there, because I was working for free, and I had to work 2 jobs to at least make my living. And yeah, basically I had like amazing results in the company, and they promoted me to lead the marketing team there after 6 months. And I used to work for them for 3.5 years and 4 years maybe. Then I started like producing content. And actually, it's interesting that the reason I started like producing content was that I'm an introverted person. So
Yeah.
I used to be a little bit like shy while talking to people and communicating and this stuff. So the internet was like for me an easier way to communicate with people, and that was the reason I started like producing content first of all. And then I was lucky enough that I started like getting some results quickly, because many people don't get the results quickly and they give up. But for me, I was lucky in that I started getting some results quickly and go deeper into that.
Wow. I am mind blown by it. Sorry, thank you so much for sharing it. And I feel like we might feel this a little bit more too, because we also migrated, right? We migrated from Venezuela. Maybe not as a tough situation as probably what you lived in there too, but we felt it, right? Like we've been in different countries too, and I think that mentality, right? Like we gotta make that happen, right? What's the worst that can happen? I think it already happened, so like let's move forward, right? So I feel incredibly inspired by your story, man, and so thankful that you're here with us sharing it.
Yeah, and sorry,
Wow.
I got
You got
teared
emotional,
up. Yeah, I
man.
got emotional here. Mano, I love your story in the sense as well that you are pretty honest by saying, the first time that I went to Armenia, it wasn't what we were expecting, and then I migrated again to Lebanon, and then I came back, and that's when I changed perspective. And I'm curious, what was, because, and I'm going to give a little context in here, right? Like I've met a lot of people that have migrated to the United States. And when I talk to them, I realize that they have a victim mentality, right? Like, oh, this is happening to me. And they are not actively trying to search for a solution to their problems. So I'm curious, what was that mentality of yours at first when you left Syria to Armenia? And then what happened? What changed that made you change that perspective the second time that you came?
Yeah. So first, when I came here, like I didn't have anything in mind. I just wanted, like, when I was in Syria, I was thinking like I just have to go there and find a job and work and see how things will go, because I was like 17 years old, 18 years old. So I didn't have much because like maybe in the US, people after 16, they start like working and getting jobs and this stuff. But in Syria, the case wasn't like that. So like people used to go to the university and graduate, and until that, their family take care of them. So when I immigrated from Syria, I was alone at 17. It was shocking for me because I was on my own. I didn't have anyone to rely on, and it was like my first job that I had as a waiter. It was in Armenia. So I didn't work before that. So imagine, like, for example, when someone asks me for something during the job and this stuff, I used to feel like I didn't used to feel comfortable, because it was my first job, and I was like, I was some sort of a kid, I mean, in that time. And as you mentioned, I used to have this victim mentality as well. Like, why do I have to work these jobs? For example, I was seeing some of my rich friends, not rich friends, but their families were rich, who were sending them money so they don't have to work. And I was like comparing myself with them. And, I had some friends who were like me as well, who were telling me, man, there's no job in Armenia. You can't find a job here. You have to keep working as a waiter and this stuff. So, I mean, the people who were around me as well, and my own victim mentality caused me to burn out. And that's why I decided to go to Lebanon. I was thinking like the problem is in the country I was in, but in reality, that wasn't the problem. And when I went to Lebanon, I think I was lucky for that, but the situation in Lebanon was even harder than Armenia. That's why
Wow.
I started to think like you would better stay there, and maybe you would do something. And then like when I started challenging myself. I don't have anything else. That's it. I can't control that, because even I can't get any visa to another country with my Syrian passport. So I have to stay either in Lebanon or Armenia. So I had to go back and solve that somehow. I didn't even know how I'm going to solve that problem, to find at least a good job to work. And yeah, I came here like with the mindset that you have to do something no matter what it is. And once I started like watching Gary's videos, that's why I always mention him like in all my interviews, or every time that I tell my story, because in reality he was the person, like not directly but through his content, that changed my life, that I had different perspective, that no victim mentality, you have to work hard and there's a hope. Actually, that was the biggest point that I saw. There's a hope to at least work for that.
That's incredible,
Yeah,
man,
wow.
dude. So for you guys listening and watching, right? If you're creating content, let this be a lesson. You don't know who you're inspiring with your words, with your actions, with what you put out there.
Absolutely.
Mano is the perfect example, right? Like, and you change your life completely. And I just want to highlight some points here, right? You mentioned, what changed so you could have a new perspective, right? Like you went to a new environment that you thought it was going to be better, and it turned out to be probably a worse situation. You're like, man, I have the chance to go back. Then you said like the problem is the environment I'm in, right? Like that mentality, right? Of
Yeah. Kind of
this
like letting the circumstances
dictate.
dictate yourself and your future and who you are.
Yeah, and
Yes.
sometimes that needs to change, right? And I'm curious, like on your mind, how is that process, right? And we can dive into that in a second. But I think like the most important part here that I took from that story was accepting the brutal facts of reality. When you mentioned, I with my Syrian passport, I cannot go anywhere else. Like I cannot get a visa for anywhere else. You accepted that, and then you're like, I'm gonna take action, right? And then
Yeah.
you started implementing. And most people here, maybe in America, don't feel identify with that, because somebody from the United States, for example, can have a lot of doors open themselves because of the situation of the country that they were born in, right? Like us as Venezuelans, it's pretty challenging to, like, we have to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to come here or stay here in the States. And there's like obviously that perspective of, okay, this is the scenario I'm in. Can I accept the brutal facts of reality? Can I actually move forward? And I feel like you made the most out of it, and I praise you for that, man. Thank you for sharing that very important lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give a little quick shout out to Joseph Hansen, who he's the one that actually mentioned that is called the Stockdale's paradox, which is not losing faith but accepting the brutal facts of reality, right? And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people they have faith, yet they don't accept the brutal facts of reality, and then that's I feel when the victim mentality takes over, and it's very difficult to escape that. Actually, it takes a moment that is it can shift your mindset. And for you, it seems that it was a moment when you realize, wow, I moved into a country that is even more difficult, right? So probably it's not the environment, it is me, the one that has to make this work, right? How, like my brothers say, right, what was going through your mind at that moment to make that decision? What caused that awareness in you to say, okay, I cannot be a victim anymore, I have to start moving forward, I need to start taking steps? Because for example, for my brother and I, when we started our business, we were in a place of need, right? We were in a sense greedy, because we were, and now we call it differently. What was it? Self-preservatory.
Self-preservatory.
Because we needed the money, right? Because we didn't have our parents sending us money from our country, because of visa limitations. We couldn't go out there and find a job. So we're like, okay, we got to create our own stuff. There's no other way. And that's when our entrepreneurial journey started, right? What was
Yeah.
that moment for you?
For me, was that So when I started like searching, I told you that I went to one of the companies and to work for free for 6 months. Actually, at that time, before started working for some of the companies, I was searching just for internship in different companies in Armenia. And imagine, like, even though if I was willing to work for free, I got rejected maybe from 5 or 6 companies. I don't know the exact number, but from too many companies, because I didn't have education at that time. I mean, I graduated from high school in Syria, and I came here to start going to the university in Armenia. And I didn't know English. In Syria, we used to speak Armenian with my family because we are Armenians, and Arabic in the country because we are living with Arabs. So I didn't know English. I didn't have any skills yet because I didn't know anything. I used to get rejected a lot. So I'm it from my nature, like I'm too competitive. I mean, when someone tells me something, I always like to prove them wrong, even though I don't care about people's opinion. Now I still like feel competitive sometimes. So the main reason for me was like to prove people that they are wrong, that they would like want me to work for them later, and I won't do that because I already have my business. And the other thing is that, like, mainly for my family, because my family had very hard time for like to even afford sending me to Armenia to study here and this stuff. So I was like willing to give back to them. That was the second reason. And the third reason was for me, like, just to improve my life. And I decided, like, no matter if in reality there's hope or not in Armenia, and no matter what people tell me, I'm just going to follow what I want to do, and let's see what would happen. I just eliminated all the external noises. I also got rid of all the toxic friends that I had, that they used to tell me, like, I didn't get rid of them like completely, but I just decreased the amount of time I spent with them, because they are still my friends and I love them. But uh, I mean, they were like affecting me. So those were the two things I was doing. I got rid of all the leisure, all the fun that I used to have before. I was just focusing on work, and I used to just work every day for 2 years. I worked for 2 years, like every day, even on the weekends. And you know, it's funny that until today, like, I just don't take days off because I'm used to that. I enjoy it. I mean, it got embedded in me because I used to not take days off. So yeah, I worked for 2 years, and I wasn't producing content at that time. I was just learning. I was just testing everything and learning. And after that, once I became like more confident that I have some information that I can share, so at that time I decided, like, to go out and make the world like hear my voice, because I was confident enough to do that. I was willing to do that before, but I wasn't confident about that.
Interesting. Wow, man. And I thank you for sharing it, because your message it's amazing, right? I do believe a lot of people need to hear this. They need that moment that can shift their perspective, and a lot of times it can be a conversation, right? It can be listening to one of your podcasts, and it can just bring them a whole new reality that can literally change their life, right? And you mentioned a few things. You mentioned rejection, competitiveness, and eliminating the toxic environment, right? So I want to hit a little bit on, like, quickly on this story, right? We get rejected all the time. If you are gonna start doing things on your own, people need to get comfortable. Like you, the listener right now, you need to get comfortable being rejected and take people saying no to you. It's going to happen. It's natural. You're gonna get more no's throughout your life than yeses. But if we don't ask and we don't put ourselves out there, we're not gonna get any yeses, right? So that is an important lesson that you mentioned right there. You had all these, you were looking at all these places for internships, and they said no because you had no education, no background. And guess what? You decided, well, what if I can just work for free for a company? And you took this and you did it for 6 months. Wow. Talk about that. Like, who, like, I want people to envision themselves doing work for free for 6 months. That is something very difficult to do.
not just like one job, two jobs, right? Because you were flipping jewelry on the back end to be able to live. And I was going to ask you that, right? Because a lot of people are like, okay, well, I cannot just like quit my job. And I was having a conversation yesterday with a friend, right? And this friend is like, is not enjoying the environment that he's at, and he's calling us and, man, like, I see you guys on the show, and it's incredible what you guys were able to, build this last 9 months. I remember the conversation that I had with you, Luis, that when you were like about to quit your job, right? And to me, I had some expenses. I have a baby, like at the time I have a wife. So to me, the only solution that I had to go do, because I want to dedicate more than 40 hours a week to Bizros to make sure that this moves forward, I had to go to 8 different banks to get some money so my wife could go to school and provide for the baby, right? So more people are like, are you insane? Why are you taking personal loans? I'm like, that was the only opportunity that I saw feasible at the time, right? Because I didn't have time to go do a second job. I was already doing that and I wasn't getting results. So my friend goes and he's like, man, okay, well, I'm getting paid, but I have the passion. I want to start traveling, and he has a following, and I'm like, I want to pursue that, right? I want to create these relationships, but and I'm like, what's holding you back? And he's like, well, the paycheck. And I'm like, okay, let's say you quit tomorrow and they don't pay you. Are you gonna be okay? I'm like, and he's like, yes. Like I live with family. Are they charging you rent? No. Do you have a girlfriend? No. And I'm like, you cannot be in a better position to chase your dream, right? I'm going to tag that person after this video is done. I'm like, you need to listen to this because that might be the move. And sometimes we're so tied to that. And then we're like, okay, what's the worst that can happen, right? So, man, you're going to be my story, my to-go story. And I appreciate you allowing me to do that because it's incredible. A lot of people need to listen to this. Like, we're so scared of taking that risk, right? And like you said, with change of perspective, right? It's like, what's the worst that can happen, right? You're gonna have people that are supporting you. You're gonna have, you're gonna have somebody that says no, but it's gonna send you in the right direction, right? We see no as good things. Like, okay, it's just pointing me in the right direction. That was the wrong direction. Perfect. I know now. This is a piece of information.
Yeah, it's like little bumpers along the road that just like send you in the right direction, like my brother say, right? And the other thing I wanted to mention is eliminating the toxic environment, right? And I'm going to actually connect this to control your inputs, control your outputs, right? And a lot of people, when the first time I heard that, I was like, wow, that makes so much sense because we are consuming so many stuff every single day, yet we're not actually controlling what we put in our mind, right? And sometimes is that friendship that is telling you constantly, like, why would you do that? Like, that makes no sense. Go get your normal job. Or like, why would you even risk X, Y, and C? Yeah. And that is input that is coming into your mind and is taking space in your head, right? So then it is difficult for you to have an extremely good output, right? If all that you're hearing is all that negative stuff. So, man, it's amazing that you recognize that and you were, you know what? I'm going to cut my time here a little bit so I can control information. I can probably, listen more about Gary Vee, about what he's doing, about how he's changing his life, so I can change mine as well, right? And with that, I want to say I'm extremely curious what attracted you to Gary Vee and his message, right? Because I love Gary Vee. Don't get me wrong, right? I don't think I'm a fan of the hustle 24/7, never rest. But I love his message on starting, do your thing, right? Like, you don't have to go the common route. Like, you can build your own future. And yes. I love the fact that he's an immigrant. He has the immigrant story as well. I think that is absolutely amazing. And that's probably how he connects a lot with people. But I'm curious, what was it that connected with you?
Yeah, so first of all, the reason that I was connected with him was that his story is similar to me somehow. Like, he again had to immigrate. He had tough times. Like, he didn't know English as well when he immigrated. And like, we have a lot of things in common, like in terms of the situation that like immigrants deal with. And not just Gary Vee, there are some other people as well, like Patrick Bet-David, that those people again who my story relates to them. And like when it comes to the thing that you mentioned, like, people confuse between hustling and like burning out. You know, when Gary tells like hustle, he doesn't mean to work 24 hours a day. He actually tells that you can sleep 8 hours, but the times that you are when you wake up, you have like maybe 16 hours in the day. What are you doing in those hours? Because many people complain, like as you mentioned, like they have jobs, but if you check, like 90% of the jobs they have is from 9 to 5, and what are you doing after 5 until you sleep? If you check that and evaluate that, they are either watching Netflix or going out with their friends, drinking some beers and this stuff. So actually, you don't have to quit in the beginning. You just can like invest in 2 or 3 hours daily and just start a side hustle. For example, flip something, start an Instagram page and do influencer market, anything that makes you enjoy, start a podcast and anything. So yeah, basically it's not about like not sleeping at all and this stuff. I get it, because you know you need to have the energy to work, and you have to work efficiently as well so you don't burn out. But when you have time, you have to invest it, because I have friends like that as well, that they always tell me, but I don't have time and this stuff. But when I check their times, like they don't even work on their own side hustle, like maybe 10 or 20 minutes a day. They don't even do that. I mean, if you just stop drinking coffee tomorrow, if you don't make coffee for yourself, you will already save maybe 30 minutes daily, and you can work on your side hustle.
That's so good. I love that you went so deep also to like, okay, how much time I'm spending in coffee. And you know, we've mentioned this in the last few episodes. We have this like tool here that's helping us track time, right? We're like, okay, we flip it, you know, this is the activity, because like personally, like Fonzie felt, and then when he got it, I was like, I felt that we're wasting time when we're in the office. So I'm like, how can we be more effective, right? So time tracking doesn't have to be a fancy tool like this. You could put it on your papers, like from 9 to 8. What am I doing from? And just the fact of you recording that in paper is gonna help you move forward. Right now, I'm moving that into my personal life too, because you know when I'm out of here, it's like, okay, well, I need to work out. I'm sure I can like scrap an hour somewhere to be physically active, so I actually don't die, right?
Actually, there's a quote that I heard once from Jay Shetty that it's really great. He said that it's not about how much weight you carry, it's about how you carry it.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
You ready to hear? Okay, you good. Yeah, put it on your notes, please, Fonzie.
I do like that. Dude, I love Jay Shetty, man. I love, I'm very into that spiritual mindset, if you want to put it that way. I love that.
So I want to highlight here for our content peeps and our people that are scared to share their story. Like you mentioned in there, you said his story is similar to me somehow, and that's why you resonated. And we cannot stress enough, you gotta share your stories, right? And we've done it. If it's like business related or content related or like just messaging related, right? Like we're so scared to share our stories because then we think we might be judged. We think that people might not even like it or don't feel identified with that story. But then when you share it, you're gonna find the people that do, and they're gonna that's gonna help them move forward, like it happened to you. Like probably this story that you're sharing with us is gonna move a ton of people forward that listen to this show. I already messaged a few people that need to listen to this. Like I don't know if they want to listen to it, but I'm like, you need to, because of the conversations that we've been having it. So on the marketing side, I just want to make that connection with the powerful thing that you've done with your story. And I feel more identified now too, because like we've been through there, maybe different levels, but it's like, okay, this is actually the thing that's going to make me move forward, right? Instead of just facts and sheets and, you know, features of whatever you're doing, is the story that's going to make you move forward. So I just want to highlight that for those listening. If you want to re-listen, that's about minute 25. So go back and listen because I just wanted to make that connection.
And I think that's a great, you know, segue to talk about the content side of things. Because, I mean, right now we've covered a lot of the perception type of things, which we absolutely love, and we could talk all day about that.
Perspective.
Perspective. What did I say?
Perception.
Perspective.
I'm curious.
Wow, now I'm curious.
Hold on. So Mano, I'm curious. What is perspective to you? Like, what's your definition of perspective?
For me, it's the way you look at things. Like, for example, we both. I'm not sure if it's right in terms of the grammar and this stuff, but for me, I understand it like that. So
Yeah.
for me, it's the way you see things. Like, if we can both look in the same thing and see it in a different way. So for me, that's it. Like and the reason that I think about it like that, because as based on based on my experience, like I had a very tough situation in my life, and I used to look at it as an opportunity to do better, and other people used to look at it in a way that breaks them.
Wow. That's awesome.
Hold on.
We're gonna have to make a timestamp right there, 'cause that's definitely, we're gonna edit that part right here,
Yeah,
and we're gonna use
I
this.
put exclamation points here for the team. Danny, if you listen to this, this is the part that we want. Now, and we and perspective has been such a big word for us in 2020, because I don't know if you've heard our story, but in March, right, we lost about 80% of our business. At the time, we were freelancing, and I personally thought, I went into crisis mode, because I'm like, okay, I have these loans, I have the family, I have the baby, like, what's going on, right? I'm Fonzie a little bit, more calm in those situations, and he's like, let's change perspective. We were actually looking to start working with these people, right? This is the perfect time to start the show that we talked about starting 2 years ago, right? Like, we have some time, let's do it. Guess what? 3 weeks passed and we recovered the business, right? So it's not a big deal. And then a month passed, and then we triple sales, and then we were able to increase our resources and our team members, and it's been incredible. So that for us, 2020, I think, like, has been perspective, and this is why I feel so passionate. I'm so glad that you're sharing this story and your definition.
You know what?
Right?
There's gonna be a new saying. Sorry. Wow. I'm like, so the weather in here changes like crazy. Just so you know. So I'm guessing you do Celsius as your temperature.
What? I didn't.
Celsius. So it's
Degrees.
okay. Yeah,
Degrees.
Celsius degrees. So
temperature.
Yeah, on temperature. So like in the morning was like 4 degrees, super cold.
Okay.
And in the afternoon, it gets up to like 22. So the change in temperature is killing over here. Now I got like allergies going
for
on.
those in Fahrenheit, we wake up at 32 Fahrenheit, and then at night it's like 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So the
afternoon is like 80. Yeah, it's insane. But whatever. That was super tangent. Is because you've seen me right now with like sneezing and all that stuff.
That's okay.
But man, we all know the saying of ClickFunnels, which is you are one funnel away, right? Let's change that, and now is you are one change of perspective away. Maybe.
I like that. I like that.
Approved by Mano. Let's go.
Approved by Mano. Let's go. So yeah, let's make a segue into content, right? Of course, again, Gary V, great inspiration, and he is all about content, publish, document over create. So once you started your 6-month, let's call it an internship, or no, let's call it your 6-month job that you were doing for free, right? What was it that you started implementing there? Was it content? Immediately you started with content, or how do you manage, to put content into these companies that you work with and yourself?
Yeah, so basically, first of all, I was just doing it like for the companies that I was helping them in terms of social media. I was producing content for them. So it's a little bit different than what I do for myself. I mean, the main concept is the same, but the type of content changes a little bit. So yeah, first of all, I wasn't producing content for myself. I was just doing for different companies. And as I work with e-commerce brands who sell physical products, it was like I was like more like diving deeper on what people like to see and how I can like provide them with a content that doesn't feel like they are being sold to, that it doesn't feel like marketing, so they engage with it. So that's how I started. And then when I started like producing content for myself, I found out I was thinking before like it would be something different at all. Like I was going to share my story, I will share marketing tips and this stuff. But when I started producing content, I was getting some results, but not crazy results. And I started seeing that there's something wrong in that. When I was succeeding doing it for companies, but it wasn't working for me when I'm doing it for my personal brand. So then I started like to think about that, why it's working for companies but not for me. And I found out like what I was doing is that I was learning some hacks when it comes to marketing, but I don't know the main concept behind it. Why the hack is working. So once I started learning the concept, I understood that marketing is all about three things, no matter if you do it for like a company or for a personal brand. So it's about three stages that you have to focus on when it comes to producing content. It's the awareness, consideration, and conversion. And what interesting is that I found that from Facebook's ad manager dashboard. So when you go there to do some Facebook ads, they ask you to choose an objective, and there are three words there: awareness, consideration, and conversion. And I noticed that all social media advertising platforms use those three terms, which means like there's something in that. Awareness is like, no matter if you do it for a company or for yourself, you have to bring awareness to your personal brand, where you need to like share content that gets you more reach, to reach more people. And consideration, when it comes to your personal brand, is where you have to establish your authority and like create relationship with these people to make them trust you. And the conversion, when it comes to yourself, again, it's about like selling them a package you have or a marketing service you have. And when it comes to companies, it's again selling them a product that they provide. So once I understood the link between these two, now like how content works, I started like no matter if I do it for brands or I do it for a personal brand, I understood that it's the same concept. You just have to like customize it so it fits for you.
Yeah. Wow.
Master class on marketing. But like that, if you see me looking down, that's because I was taking notes like crazy.
Yeah.
And I highly encourage listeners to go back to minute 35 where you start doing this, because these 2 minutes is pure gold.
Yeah, definitely. This is extremely valuable for anybody that wants to start creating content, right? Because a lot of times they're like, what do I create? I don't know what to do. I think by knowing these three stages, you will know exactly what to do, what to promote and where, and to what audience, right? Because probably I'm not going to show any consideration type of content to people that are not even aware of me yet, right? So once I make them aware of me, now I can start the stage of consideration and start to, establish or the authority, build that relationship with them. So wow, that was absolutely amazing. And you mentioned something at the beginning about the main concept of content, right? And I'm curious, what is your own personal definition of perspective that you have? What is your own definition of content?
Yeah, for me, content is like your message. It's the same way like when you text someone and you tell them about something. For example, I launched my company, and when you tell your friends, I launched my company, and this is the services I would be providing. It's the same way that you do that, but this time you do it in public. When you do it, like when you communicate with all people. What's harder in producing content is that now you are communicating with too many people at the same time, and that makes it harder. Like you have to like you can't be everything for everyone, but you have to understand your audience's language, so at least people who matter for you, like your audience, understands you, all of them, and like get context on what you do. So for me, content is like your message that you will communicate with your audience with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that leads perfectly to my next question, which was, how do you get to know the people, right? How do you get to know what they want? How do you get to know how to communicate that message in the most effective way, right? Because again, not just about selling. And I think a lot of people think content is just about selling, but it's about, for us personally, it's building that relationship. That is key number one. With no relationship, nothing else is going to happen. But everybody talks about, you need to know who your dream audience is, right? You need to understand them. How do you go about finding out that?
Yeah, so actually the way I did it first, it was like just putting out content randomly for the first few months, and I was getting like comments, reactions from it. And for me, I started on LinkedIn because the organic reach on LinkedIn is higher than other platforms now in these 2 years. So that's why I started on LinkedIn. First of all, I didn't have any strategy. I wasn't using the concept of the three phases that we talked about. I was just putting out content randomly. Like for example, whatever comes to my mind daily, I just share it. And I started like, then I had maybe like 50 posts, 60 posts, and I started going through them and review it to see what's working, people are engaging with what. For example, you might find some posts that are not working well, some type of topics that are doing great. So you see the comments, you read them. Also, people start reaching out to you, like to tell you if they like this or that, and people like to share their opinions. That's why I always ask questions in my content. At the end of my posts, sometimes I write like some call to actions to ask them to leave a review and this stuff. And that's how I did it for myself, to understand like what topics are working or not. But at the end, it also has like to be tied to your main message. So you can't, like, if you are going to talk about marketing at the end, and people are enjoying your content about sales, it won't work. You have to find the perfect content for marketing to share it. That's why it's important to tie your content to your message as well.
This is so
Yeah,
good.
and I'm curious, because right now you're very, I want to say you're very into e-commerce, right? That's mainly
Yeah.
what you do right now. How do you tie these three steps into an e-commerce? Because I can definitely see it in the awareness and conversion side, but I think the consideration side is probably one of the most important ones, because again, you're establishing that relationship. And I feel like personally, for a personal brand, it might be easier to do because of the stories that we share, right? I mean, we begin this episode sharing your story, talking about, your upbringing, and I think that is what connects with people. And I'll say that was the consideration part of the episode, right? How do you
Yeah.
do that for e-commerce, for products?
Yeah.
Well,
So for e-commerce, yeah. Go
sorry,
ahead.
before we go there, because like let's put this on hold. I just want to highlight something, because you said, like, you literally told the road to start creating, right? A lot of people come to us and they're like, what do I publish, right? And I relate to this because we started sharing our day to day and relating it to what we did, and then we got feedback, right? And I feel a lot of people miss that part. They miss going back, and you said it. You went back and saw what people were saying, where people were reacting to, and you're like, man, this is my market research, right? And it's
Yeah.
necessary at that point too, because okay, this is what my audience is resonating with. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation about that, right? So I just wanted to like put a dot in there before we go to the e-commerce side of things, because I feel like that's so important, because people get so hung up on that, right? We've done the content calendars, we've done like all the courses out there, and nothing worked for the first 3 years, except when we started putting our word out and then receiving feedback. Okay, people are reacting to this, right? People are answering these questions. Perfect. Let's do more of that, right? So it's that active feedback that I wanted to highlight. So anyways, super parenthesis. I thought you were gonna go there, but I just needed to get it out,
Yeah.
because that was such an important lesson. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
That was great. That was great.
Close parenthesis. E-commerce time. All right, here we go.
Yeah, so for e-commerce brands, it changes a bit. So for the awareness content, you should like produce some content which is entertaining, because when it comes to your personal brand, you can share your story, as you mentioned, and people would relate to it and communicate with you. But when it comes to a company or a brand who sells physical products, you can share your story as well, but sometimes like people won't relate to it because it's a company story and this stuff. So what we do is to like produce other entertaining content which might not even be related to your product, but it would attract the right type of the audience to your brand. For example, you can post a funny meme who like that talks about, for example, let's say fashion, funny meme about fashion, and if you are selling a fashion product, let's say, so you will attract people who are interested in fashion products because they would understand that meme. And you can't do it with other stuff as well, but that's one of the examples that we do. Or for example, if you are it depends on the problem you are solving, you would just talk about the problem without selling them something. So you attract people who are having these problems. For example, if you are selling a skincare product, let's say, you would talk about your struggles with your skin, like having some problems with it, and it would attract you the right types of people. And when it comes to consideration, you will already introduce your product, its features, what problems you are solving, the benefits. And also, it's so important to share some testimonials, like reviews from other people's, reviews from influencers, reviewers, and those stuff, so people trust your brand and see it's actually better than your competitor's product and its stuff. And when it comes to the conversion, in the consideration phase, people will be divided into two parts. Some people will already buy your product from that stage directly, and some people won't buy it because of some reasons. For example, they would go to your website to buy it and they would find that the price is a little bit higher, or the shipping is expensive, or for example, there might be some confidence issues and this stuff. So what you have to do to figure out why 90% of people are not buying your product, and in the conversion stage, you have to solve that problem for them with your content. For example, if they are not buying your product because you have a high shipping rates, so in the conversion stage, you understood that you will provide them with a content that says, for example, if you buy the product today, we will provide you with a free shipping. So it depends on the problem that they are having. You have to continuously solve it in different stages.
Oh,
I love it. I love
Mastermind, like we talk about Sean's in his episode on selling. This is amazing on the
Yes.
marketing side, dude. Thank you, man. This is incredible,
Yeah,
man. Thank you for sharing all the little secrets.
Yeah, now every time someone asks about the content, how do I frame my content, and what are the stages, I'm like, hey, just go and listen to Mano's episode, because he is absolutely amazing, man. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And this made me realize something, right? Because you were talking about before that you understood that it wasn't just about the tactics and the hacks, right? That we needed to understand the principles behind it. And that is actually a realization that I came to have this year as well. That it's like, wow, we've been chasing tactics and strategies for 3 years. And yes, you can see results here and there, but it's nothing sustainable. Principles is what is going to make your business sustainable. So now, that being said, people buy because you are either moving them away from pain or getting them closer to pleasure. And that's what I'm listening from you right now with your content. That is what you're doing, right? You are either showing them how they can move away from pain, or in a way bringing them closer to the pleasure that they want. And it's absolutely amazing. And that last thing you said is creating content for the reasons that they don't buy, which is in our world, right? We sell a service, is creating content for their objections. So every time we have a sales conversation and we hear the objections, okay, this is always coming up, let's make a piece of content of that, right? And it becomes a game of listening, then putting your thoughts into words, listening, then putting your thoughts into words. And I think it's fantastic, because you have just literally proved to us that is not necessarily, it's a principle, right? The principle, again, of listening. And you can listen whether you have an e-commerce, you can listen whether you have your own personal brand. And at the end of the day, it's just that. It comes down to the communication and how you're framing this content for people to consume.
Yeah. I know. So what would be your number one action point?
Wait, before we go into that one, sorry, my turn to interrupt you. Mano,
we have one interruption per episode, so
Mano, I'm curious, right? We had a really good friend here at the studio the other day, and he is actually in one of the episodes. His name is Pablo. He's amazing. And we asked him, what is your definition of perfect content, right? And I really loved his answer, if I'm being honest, right? And I'm curious to know, what is your definition of perfect content? And I want to put this out there. I'm not comparing them. I'm sure both are valuable in their own way. And the reason I'm asking is because new ideas form from connecting two different ideas that already exist, right? And that is my total selfish purpose of asking this question, is because I have Pablo's idea, and I want to hear your idea and see if I can make a connection in there and make a different idea as well out of that. So what would be your definition of perfect content?
Yeah, for me, it would be like two things. It would be the content first that educates my audience and provides them with value, and at the same time entertains them, and so they enjoy it. Because people consume content for two reasons: one, to be educated, and two, to be entertained if they are bored or something. So if you combine these two together, and of course, everyone won't enjoy your content. You just need your audience to enjoy with it. And perfect is subjective. Like, you might think that, for example, sometimes I would write a post and I think that it would do very well, and I post it and no one likes it. And also sometimes I think that this post won't work well, but when I post it, people like it. So it's all about your audience. Like, if they are enjoying it, then it's perfect.
Oh, that's so good.
I love it. I love it. I love that perfect is subjective, because indeed it is actually, right. And that's probably the reason why I'm asking this question, right? Because I want to know your side of that, your perspective on that content.
I think it can also evolve, right? Like, your perfect content will evolve. For us, when we first started, because we weren't publishing anything, the perfect content was the content that was going out.
Literally.
The content that was published, that was perfect. And we tell the story of we had to track something, so we decided to track consistency. That was the thing, because if we're not consistent, then we cannot track anything else. So I think it depends also on the stage where you sit on the content creation phase. Like, if you create zero content, your perfect content is the one that goes out. Right after that, then we can start, and then it evolves, right? So
and we actually, when we talk about the publishing pyramid, right, which is one of the frameworks that we've developed through our journey, we say the perfect message is the one that you share, right? Because if you have what you think is, and I'm doing air quotes for those that are listening right now, the perfect message, but you don't share it with the world, it's really not that perfect, right? It's just going to be perfect for yourself. You're the only one that's going to have it, but you're not influencing anybody. You're not helping anybody, right? So put it out there, and it is an ever-evolving thing. Like, the more you say it, and we've noticed this with our own content and our own self, that the more we talk, we can see the change and we can see the message evolving, and it goes from perfect to perfect to perfect, right? Like, again, or perspective of perfect change as we go. But this wouldn't have happened if we would have kept that message all for ourselves.
And once you start with consistency, then educate and entertain. I mean, just listen to Mano. Like, that's it. Game over. Okay, can I ask the questions now? Okay,
now you can go.
Okay, so these are my two favorite questions of every podcast. That's the reason we put them in here. That's it. The only, nothing else. What would be your number one action point for somebody that's starting their journey? Like, we can talk perspective side, or we can talk content side. I'll leave it up to you. But somebody that's out there that wants to share their message, either for them or for their business, what would be something that they can do today to create that momentum?
Post content, produce content. That would be the best thing that you can do. Like, don't overthink it. Don't go in details when you are just starting. Just whatever you think, whatever thoughts you have, just put it out. And after that, once you have like a specific amount of content that you already put out, you can just analyze it and see what's working and what's not. And then you can just strategize for it, because without starting, you don't know like what's working, because there's no fixed rule for success in content. Like, maybe one story would work for me but wouldn't work for you, so you have to test it on your own. So my best advice is just put out content, like, without overthinking at all.
I love it. Thank you. And we often say too, the first KPI you should focus on is consistency, because consistency is the KPI that rules them all, because without being consistent, you will have nothing to measure later. So thank you for sharing that. Just create content, right? Like, just put yourself there. And we could totally another episode on this, because putting yourself in front of a camera, there's so much that goes internally, right? All these fears that people have. So we might have to bring you a second time, Mano, and have that conversation.
Definitely, I'm happy to do it.
Thank you, man. So where would you be if you did not publish?
Can you please repeat it?
Where would you be if you did not publish? Like, where in life?
Okay.
Like, yeah.
I think I would be I would be working in the same thing like I'm doing, but I would have less business, less clients, because fewer people would know me like without publishing content. Everything like I started my business without producing content, but I scaled it after producing content. So I wouldn't be able to scale it without producing content.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, the magical content right there. You know, it helps you. It can help you. You say you started without content. For some people, it can help them start their business. But
Mm,
if you want to scale, you need content because there's no other way people are going to hear from you. So thank you so much. I
yeah.
actually want to give a shout out here to Gary V for, dude, for creating, helping shape, dude, who you are today, Mano, because it's
You
amazing
guys, thank you.
from perspective, from your story to what you talk in about content. You're so knowledgeable about it, and we learned so much today. And I'm sure whoever is listening to it learned a lot, and I hope they took notes, and I
take
hope they
action.
have pen and paper, and not only that, but they take action. That's right.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
man, I'm completely confident that this piece is gonna help a ton of people, man. So, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, I'm active on all social media channels, mainly on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook. Yeah, so I'm pretty much everywhere except TikTok. I'm not using it for now. So yeah,
Awesome, man. We're gonna leave all the links right in the description.
Yep.
So if you want to connect, just slide down or just scroll down and click it.
Yep.
Very, very simple.
And I encourage
Last thoughts?
everybody to go and listen to Mano's podcast, The Perspective.
Yes, go check him out. Mano, is there something that we left out that you want to share? Last thoughts?
no, it was really a pleasure to be with you guys. It was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely,
Thank you,
man.
Mano.
Thank you so much. And with that being said, guys, thank you for tuning into the Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit smash that subscribe button and follow us on social media at BizBrosGo.
That is right. And if you find this episode impactful, which I am sure you did, please don't forget to you can change somebody's life.
Yes.
And leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.